For the Danes, we return once again to the land of Vinland Saga, Volume 3. Now, I've decided to kind of be alternating back and forth between Berserk and Vinland Saga for the foreseeable future, but on Monday, Halloween, you will be getting my Halloween special, Uzumaki, which I hope I'm saying right. Now, if fantasy news on Friday feels a little bit light, it's going to be because I am devoting my entire weekend to pretty much getting a summary of this done for you that is detailed and rich with effects. So if you could tune in on Monday, I'd really appreciate that. But without any further ado, I am really excited to talk to you about Vinland Saga Volume 3 because I think this is my favorite Vinland Saga volume yet, and that's because of how much payoff we're getting for really solid setup within this book here. And Volume 3, especially towards the end, starts paying off big, especially for one character in particular who is now one of my favorites. Though Thorkell is still my all-time favorite for Vinland Saga because why would he not be? He's perfect. But without any further ado, let's get into the summary of Volume 3 after a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Vankyo and their V700W projector. The Vankyo V700W has 360-degree panoramic sound, uses dual 5W speakers and Dolby Digital Plus, so you can feel like you're smack dab in the center of whatever you're watching. The 420 nice ANSI lumens of brightness makes sure any properly set up room will display the screen brilliantly. And yes, it does come with its own 120-inch screen, though feel free to project it onto a wall because the image can reach as great as 224 inches. And very important to me, Vankyo uses environmentally friendly packaging, so whether it's a gift for you or someone in your life, be sure to check out the Vankyo V700W projector by clicking the promotional link below and use promo code Daniel Green for 10% off your purchase. We open up in the prince's father, the king's camp, where he is told that the prince is still missing and not necessarily confirmed alive or dead or even still captive. Thorkell's camp was watched and no one could see if the prince was among them. Though we do see the king express doubt in Canute, saying, if only Canute had a greater affinity for ruling than his brother Harold, then perhaps he would have never been lost, Floki. From here we cut to Thorkell, where they are essentially stationed in a camp, and what's set up here is Thorkell's people are just eating their way through this town's supplies, and Thorkell himself is extraordinarily bored. And when he hears the news from one of his men, well, in that case, I'm afraid I got bad news from the town's priest captain. There's to be a wedding amount soon in Wessex. Swain's to be crowned the king of the Britons. It's the only reason they are convening the council. Indeed, Denmark will swallow England whole. It looks like the English nobility wants this war to end so badly they're willing to give up control of the country. And Thorkell's response to this is like, God damn it, no! I wanted to be on a side that would keep fighting, and I thought the losers would keep... Thorkell, think it through. Rich people in a bad spot will buy their way out of that bad spot. But from here we see the girl with the ring who escaped the village is found, which means Askelin and his people, as well as Thorfinn's location, has been compromised. We see the prince and his second Ragnar praying at the mass graves of the villagers slaughtered by Askelin and his men. The priest is praying with him and says, "Our father, I admit, I begin to doubt your love," to which the prince screams, "Silence! You dare to doubt God." And they just shame the priest for their doubt in God's love. And, like, I get the mentality of being like, hey, don't doubt God's love. God's a loving God. But when faced with a mass grave, a bit of pity, I think, could be appreciated. Because, like, that's a lot for even the most devout Christian to take in. We cut back to Thorkell and him learning of Aslin's position, and of course they begin marching immediately through the snow to try and catch up. Aslin's scout learn of an English force nearby, and he goes to his men and begins rushing their prep to leave as soon as possible, knowing that Thorkell might be hot on his heels. We see distrust is growing in Aslin's men. They've been forced to march, and right as they get their first reprieve, they're discovered quickly. Aslin's plans seem to be rapidly falling apart. Thorfinn is brought into the prince's hut after he catches a rabbit, and they take his rabbit and make some nice stew. We learn the prince does like to cook, but their father banned them from doing so. But they do make the soup that Thorfinn begins eating, but his eating is interrupted as soldiers burst in. The soldiers inform them, the English forces have found us. A battle began in the forest to the east. Aslin's men inform them that they plan on marching deeper into enemy territory. Ragnar, the prince's second, demands to go see Aslin. He marches with the men in the forest, but he is betrayed. Ragnar notices, hey, the voices are coming from that direction. Can't you hear them? Aslin's soldiers say, what, did you just notice? By the gods, you're dense. A soldier emerges from the snow, stabbing Ragnar in the back. Ragnar still demands to see Aslin, and Aslin arrives. I will hear your final words, Lord Ragnar. And here, after Ragnar makes Aslan swear to protect the prince, he tells them, courtiers at Gelling are forming two competing factions to determine who shall be the future king. One side seeks to place the Prince Canute upon the throne, the other aligns itself with the brother Prince Harold. The prince's wishes do not matter to them. They are scheming nobles embroiled in petty squabbles. His Majesty, perhaps fearing the kingdom might split, likely forced himself to make a decision to kill one of his two sons. His Majesty sent Prince Canute into the war to have him die on the battlefield. Know this, Aslan. Prince Canute's true enemy at this moment is none other than his own father, King Swin. Fleeing into exile is the only choice left. When you reach Gainsborough, my brother will have arranged for... And Ragnar falls. Aslan scratches the back of his head and says, well, I'd love to have known that earlier. There's some really good humor in Vinland Saga. This is like the best example of it, but keep an eye out for it as we continue through, because this is funny. As Ragnar slips into unconsciousness, he says, just give me one last glimpse of him to say farewell, to which Aslan says, no. Here we cut to Prince Canute learning of Ragnar's death, and it's made clear that Ragnar was more of a father to the prince than the actual king. Aslan says, we must prepare to leave at once. Don't leave his side, Thorfinn. And Thorfinn is commanded to protect the prince. We cut to the torture of a captured English soldier, Aslan's men passing him back and forth, beating him harder and harder, trying to get information out of him. Aslan finally has his men pin him down and begins snipping off fingers with scissors. The Englishmen start screaming, burn in hell, you accursed Danes! You deserve nothing less. If you hadn't come, you burned down my village, you tortured and killed my wife and daughter. This is our land. Be gone, you foul beasts! To which Aslan calmly responds, I see. So we're the beasts, is that right? Let me provide you a little history lesson. Listen, Saxon, you'll thank me later. Or you Angles around here? Whichever, it doesn't matter. This land did not originally belong to you. The first inhabitants were Celts. They lived in the forest and worshipped spirits. They were the ancestors of today's Welsh people. Later came the Romans. They ruled this island, but they lived together with the Celts and shared their knowledge and culture. I think that might be a bit of an oversimplification, but all right. Then the Romans left, and you Angles and Saxons were the last to arrive, about 5 centuries ago. You did not bring anything for Celts. In fact, you drove them to the barren part of England and seized all the fertile crops for yourselves. Lies! They're not. If we Danes are beasts, then surely you Anglo-Saxons are as well. You stole this land with violence, and now we are taking it with greater violence. You really can't complain about it. Be silent! Who would believe the words of a barbarian? Aslan plays with his scissors for saying, teacher doesn't like it when students won't listen. I also love the detail of having like nature, an owl feasting on an eye, as it's kind of underlaying his talking about this cycle of violence being an only natural thing. Good little artistic flair there. And resumes his torture, but he's interrupted by a soldier arriving. Aslan! He says, how many? I don't know, many, from the south. And the prisoner begins laughing at the Danes around him. I'll tell you now, it's Thorkell on your heels. He should be more than match for you, Thorkell. A wave of fear rockets through Aslan's men, and we cut to Thorkell and his army marching. The prince is loaded into a wagon against their will, wanting to give a send-off to Ragnar, but it is forbade by Aslan. Ragnar is dead, and he's never coming back. Soldiers are brought before Aslan, attempted deserters. Aslan says, do as you will, choose your leader. Same to all of you. If you want to abandon me, do so. I will not curse your names. But if you do want to come with me, march. March until we've thrown Thorkell off our tail. Eat as you march and sleep as you march. Keep your wits about you. To fall behind means death. And we cut to a section of Aslan's men who deserted and went to Thorkell, and Thorkell brutalizes them all, not wanting any cowards to join his rank. As Aslan and his men cross a bridge, they decide to destroy it behind them, but after it's witnessed that it's only about waist high, his men begin doubting it'll be enough of a stall to make any difference. More talk of treason spreads among Aslan's men, and we see Aslan observe, I can even detect when traitors lurk in the midst of the faithful, as sidelong glances are given to him. And we see plans of betrayal begin solidifying among his men, with it concluding, Aslan took his gamble and he lost. That's all there is to it. It does seem mighty odd though. Why would such a cautious man decide to take on a monster like Thorkell? And with the bridge down, a first glint of weaponry is seen over the horizon, followed by hundreds more. Aslan's ears observe they're here. Thorkell, from what looks like a mile away, shouts, I found you! Hurling a spear over an incredible distance, impaling 3 men at once. Which, okay, alright. Whoa. All right. What? I know we were going to get into like some kind of fantastical elements here, but throwing a human man, throwing a spear accurately enough to impale 3 men at a distance of what looks like a mile, this guy just gave a Guts-level berserk feat. Holy crap! I actually don't think Guts could throw a spear that far and nail people. I think Guts could take Thorkell, but it would be a hell of a fight. Good lord! And we're gonna see more feats from Thorkell here that are just Captain America exceeding in terms of the strength output this guy has. He's also like 8 feet tall. But the treason begins to take hold among Aslan's men, and they begin disobeying his orders, surrounding him. This accumulates with Aslan saying, "Don't get cute with me, you thugs. If you want to leave, stay here and wash your arses in the river. Present yourselves to Thorkell and be done with it." To which the leader of the coup says, "The only arse that monster wants is the prince's. Look, Aslan, we've been together a long time. I don't want to see you killed. Leave the prince and be on your way." Aslan sighs, saying, "Before we part, may I just say one thing? You and I have been through this life for years. We've laughed together, drunk together, and fought our way through countless battles together. And although we've been a band for well over a decade, there's something I've never said that you deserve to hear. I've hated every last one of you with every fiber of my being. You stinking, pig-fucking Danish whoresons." And of course his men are like, this wasn't meant to be personal, pig stinking. And then Aslan decapitates 2 men sneaking up behind him, and a fight breaks out among his men. Thorfinn actually taking on the side of Aslan, of course, because he wants to be the one who kills Aslan, so if his men are trying to kill Aslan, Thorfinn on Aslan's side. And Aslan's second in command, who is still loyal, takes off on the wagon with the horses. Thorfinn in the back with the prince and the priest. A contingent of the betrayers scream, "After them!" Thorkell sees the infighting at a distance and screams, "How dare you start the fight without me? Wait for me!" I love Thorkell. He's like a giddy toddler with the body of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and the bloodlust of the berserker orcs from Helm's Deep. It's truly fantastic. The traitorous men catch up to Aslan's second in command, killing one of the horses, causing the wagon to tumble. Thorfinn snags a horse and flees back to Aslan, wanting to save his life so he can be the one to kill him. The traitorous men grab the priest, assuming everyone else died in the crash. They are wrong. Bjorn, Aslan's second in command, begins to stand, swallowing a mushroom. "Give me the best you've got. I'll send you all to Valhalla together." Ooh, I am roused. We cut back to Aslan saying, "I'll be damned. Getting old is a to think the great Aslan couldn't fight his way out of a mere 50-men noose." That's a thing to say. Everyone's a badass. I didn't think you could pull off a book where everyone's a badass, but as we'll see soon, even the prince is a badass. And we see a cut back to Aslan with his mother in a barn as they're trying to survive together. "Avalon, is that a place?" "Yes," his mother responds. "It is the name of paradise. Our great ancestor, Lord Artuas, is there." "But mother, wasn't Artuas a great general from many years ago? Is he still alive?" "Avalon is far across the sea to the west. It's an island of everlasting spring, where the fairies live, a world far removed from death and old age. He lives there now, tending to his wounds. When he has regained his full health, Lord Artuas will return to us. He will save us from our struggles. When that time comes, you must serve him, my son. He is a warrior and a true king. Be his wisdom, be his sword, and one day..." And Aslan thinking to himself, "Be patient, Aslan. Wait for the opportunity to escape. Thorkell's men will arrive soon, and then the real chaos begins. If I can just hold until Aslan is hit from behind from a surprise axe, he spins and bisects the man down the middle, freezing the attacking traitors. They line up archers to take him down from a distance. He reaches for his shield, but they manage to pelt his legs. They circle in, preparing to kill him, the leader of the traitors saying, "This isn't the man I remember, Aslan. You were never this desperate before, were you? When the odds seemed against us in battle, you pulled us out. Why did you risk your life for the sake of this coward prince? Were you hoping to take your reward to the grave with you?" "Getting too old for this," Aslan says. "Not much time left for me to make my living. At long last, I lost my patience. Can't wait for the true king to return from Avalon any longer." His men are confused by the statements. "Whatever, tie him up." Did you hear me? Go and... They start getting pelted with arrows. Yoo! Having fun, boys? Thorkel's walking up with his army. So which of you is this Aslan I hear about? I'd love to get a good look at the fellow. Aslan looks up. Well, this won't do. You need to have an appointment first. At a distance, Thorfinn sees this and begins riding in like a berserker. Well, now that I see you up close, you are huge, the leader of the traders says to Thorkel. The name's Torgrim. I intend no resistance, just hear me out. Boss, one of Thorkel's men says. No prince. Exactly. I was just going to explain. We were planning to hand the prince over to you, but this guy, our leader Aslan, let the boy escape. Don't worry, though. We've gotten a dozen of our best chasing after him. Just leave the prince to us, Thorkel. By Odin, you'll have your quarry soon. And we've got a trick up our sleeves. Just get a load of the... Hey! Thorkel kneels down in front of Aslan. So you're Aslan. Well, you look clever. I can't help but notice that Thorfinn's not here. Did you kill him already? I haven't. I put him on the prince's guard. He has nothing to do with this mutiny. I see. Well, that's a relief, Thorkel says. That clears it up for me. The wait's over, boys. You can kill all of them except for Aslan. What? And a slaughter begins as Thorkel's men begin butchering the traders. Much better. Now this is a proper battle. Wait, Thorkel, wait! Are you certain about this? If you kill us, you won't be able to get the prince. Nah, we're fine. You can catch him ourselves. Here's your axe. Give me your best swing. I'll see that you die a warrior. From the ground, Aslan says, you have my sympathies, Torgrim. Shut your fucking mouth! Thorgrim says, this is all our fault. Give it up, Torgrim. Death is at hand. It's going to happen, no escape. So swing your axe and die like a man. I'm here to help you. Come on! You can do it. Come at me. And we see this absolutely nightmare visage of Thorkel, reflecting how Torgrim sees him, and he freezes in a catatonic state, unable to move. Ah, that's no good, Thorkel says. Maybe I put a bit too much pressure on him. He's gone on the inside. Just then, Thorkel's distracted as Thorfinn screams, charging into battle. Thorfinn! Thorkel says, and I just love that he's like genuinely excited. He's like, Thorfinn, let's fight! He manages to uppercut punch the horse and immediately kill it, it seems, as the horse falls to the ground. To his credit, Thorfinn doesn't die, rolls off, and hears Thorkel say, there you are, Thorfinn! It's good to see you so well! Thorfinn screams back, don't you dare touch Aslan, he's mine to kill. Lay a single finger on him and it'll be the death of you. Got that? You enormous bastard! Touch him and you die. And Thorkel's like, okay. Aslan observes, I always thought he was an idiot, but I had no idea. He's a mouse trying to fight a bear. He's yours? Thorkel asks. I thought he was your boss. He's not my boss. And as the butchery of Aslan's traitorous men ends, a duel between Thorkel and Thorfinn is declared. Did you hear that? Thorfinn and I have decided to duel over the possession of Aslan. You're all witness! Thorkel seems to be just having a blast. If you win, Thorfinn, I'll see that you escape alive. You can even take a horse. Don't expect a repeat of London. That's what I was hoping to hear, son of Thors! It looks like we'll fight again. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Well, don't expect a repeat of last time. Oh, that's great to hear, because you were a little I thought I did pretty well last time, actually. Last of his warrior's blood. Yeah, that horse is dead. He just punched a horse in the chest so hard it died. What is Thorkel? And we see that the duel is going not terribly for Thorfinn at first, and he even manages to land a blow on Thorkel's chainmail, so it doesn't do any damage. And Thorkel, you get the feeling throughout the duel, is kind of letting Thorfinn hit him only in armored places and perfectly protecting anything vital, though he does actually have blood drawn from Thorfinn. But in a pause in the battle, Thorkel asks, did Thors tell you nothing? Why, that cold-hearted... I know that he was born of a Jarl. It was his wife, Helga, who was from the Jarl's bloodline. Thors earned his fame through his sword arm. Want to hear more? Do ya? If you want to know more about your father, then you'll need to make this worth my while. How about it, Thorfinn? I don't even know if he's playing a psychological game or if he's just like, well, this son's gonna want to know about his father, but I'd like a really good fight out of it. Like, it's either great emotional manipulation, or it's just straight up who Thorkell is as a character, and I don't know which is the better answer. And Thorfinn says, I'll play along if you want, but it'll be tricky to hold back just enough so you can still speak, to which all of his men start laughing, and in response, Thorkell slays one of his own men who calls Thorfinn a fool and says, did he say something funny? I recognize Thorfinn as a true warrior. Do not laugh. And when Thorkell gets serious, I clench. And as the duel resumes, we cut back to the prince, who has a dream saying goodbye to Ragnar. And it's just reaffirmed that Ragnar is more of a father figure to the prince than their father ever was. They wake up seeing Aslan's second in command on the berserker mushroom, obliterating the 10 men who tried to kill him. The drunken priest is watching the violence, observing there's no way to stop them. As the brutality continues in the background, the prince says to the priest, he said his farewell. Even in death, he was a dutiful man. With him gone, there is no one left in the world who loves me. You have made a great realization, the priest says, but it is not quite correct. Was it love that Lord Ragnar felt for you? Remember that for the sake of your safety, he allowed 62 innocent villagers to be killed. Your Highness, what is love? And we see the image of a hand reaching for an apple. Obviously, a very biblical reference. We're seeing that Aslan's dead men are being looted by Thorkell's, but more and more are gathering to continue to watch the duel between Thorfinn and Thorkell. And the men are actually observing this is the best fight they've seen for Thorkell in quite some time. Thorkell insults Thorfinn, calling his blade work sloppy. You're missing something that will complete you as a warrior. Haven't you ever felt that way, Thorfinn? And what does that make you, Thorkell? Flattering unworthy opponents the way you do. Exactly! I'm missing something too. I was hoping that I could learn whatever it is from the son of Thor's, but maybe I was overly optimistic. Tell me, Thorfinn, what do you think? What makes a true warrior? And Thorfinn thinks back to his father before thinking, shit, stop thinking. That's what he wants. He's trying to confuse me and make me drop my guard. So, you don't know. No matter. I wasn't expecting much anyway. Stop trying to mess with me! And Thorfinn charges Thorkell. And this clash ends with Thorkell kicking Thorfinn at full force, sending him skyrocketing through the air. And it's so hard and fast, the people, the army watching this duel loses track of where Thorfinn is because he's sailing through the air like 100 feet up and crashes through trees into the snow. What is Thorkell? Though we do see Thorfinn is able to live through this because he somehow braced off the kick and jumped from it, so it's not 100% Thorkell's strength, but fucking still. And they eventually spot him in the woods and they start approaching the broken Thorfinn. Aslan observing, shit, there is my final pawn. Now I'm really out of moves. We cut back to the prince, who asks, what is love, you ask? Are you saying that Ragnar did not love me? Yes. Then it is my turn to ask of you, if Ragnar had no love, then who in the world does embody real love? He does. There. He's dead, and therefore more beautiful than anyone alive. You might say he is love itself. For you see, he will not hate, nor kill, nor steal. Don't you find that wonderful? His body will be abandoned here, and his flesh will feed the beasts and insects. He will be blown about by the wind and be pelted by the rain, and he will not raise a single word in complaint. I don't know what I'm doing this accent. I'm trying to make it kind of drunken. It's just different characters, different voices. Just doing my best. It is death that completes a man. You are saying that the essence of love is death. Yes. Then the emotion a father feels for his child, what a husband and wife feel for each other, what Ragnar felt for me, what is that? Discrimination. It's hardly different from the way one swears fealty to a king or whips a slave. To Lord Ragnar, your life was more important than anyone else's, more important than his own, I suspect. For the sake of your one life, he allowed 62 to be sacrificed. He discriminated. I see. I think I understand. It's as though the mist enshrouding me has been lifted. This snow is love. That is correct. The sky, the sun, the breeze that blows, the trees, the mountains, and yet, how can this be? The world, God's divine creation, is so brimming with love, yet there is no love in the hearts of men. It is said that we became the pathetic creatures we are Because our distant ancestors sinned and turned their backs on God. We were exiled from paradise. Then finally we see Aslan's second-in-command has finished his brutalization and begins charging the prince, mad on the berserker mushroom. I'm afraid the winner has lost his sanity. You might want to flee, your highness. Sanity? Where in this world can a sane man be found? We're the same. We're all the same. None of us understand what it means to love all, or the meaning of life, or the meaning of death, or the meaning of our own battles. Highness, enough! I'm sick of this! And as the man mad on berserker mushrooms charges the prince, he stares them down. We gained knowledge, but lost something in return. The most precious thing of all. Something that we will never regain as long as we live. We will never have it back. And yet, you still force us to seek it, Father in heaven. And we see the berserker is blown back in some capacity by something the prince realizes or does in this moment. It's a bit confusing, but I'm sure it'll be clarified. And the prince takes command and begins yelling at the berserker before grabbing their face and bringing a calmness to them, a healing. He pulls the drained berserker in for a hug, thinking to himself, Father, I no longer seek your salvation. If you will not give it to us, that we have no choice but to recreate paradise with our own hands. And you know what's never gone poorly? Someone trying to recreate paradise on Earth. Not one time. That's not resulted in something awful. And the berserker returns to themselves. Huh? The prince? Before they're tackled by the last living remaining traitor. But the prince takes command once again, managing to get on a horse, commanding the priest to tend to the berserker's wounds. When the traitor tries to seize the prince to take them back to Thorkel, the prince says, There is no meaning to this battle, so stop dying. Be my subjects, warriors. And I will show you the proper time and enemy for your battles. I will give your struggles, lives and deaths, a proper meaning. That is the calling of a king. And I can't really do this moment justice because I am doing like a summary read through, but I love everything that's happened for the prince here. And this like coming into a leadership role through the guidance of a religious figure, even as a non-religious person myself, I think it's wonderfully executed and very reflective of the themes this material has put forward. It's just blowing me away. I'm loving the prince getting the spotlight of character development for this volume because it feels like not only is it pretty well earned with everything that's been done around them, but also it sets up a lot for the future that is not where I thought things were going to be going, yet still is enticing as hell. We cut back to a broken Thorfinn on the ground as Thorkel and his men approach. No time to lie down! Thorfinn begins to stand and Thorkel's men observe. What? He's standing? I can't believe he's alive. And Thorkel says, looks like there's more fun to be had. I'll give you time to patch yourself up. See your wounds. F*** off! I don't want your courtesy. It's not courtesy. I mean, how will you fight like that? And we see that Thorfinn's arm is bent the wrong direction. There, see? Aslan comes and begins helping Thorfinn bandage himself up to Thorfinn's great resistance, as Thorkel begins talking about Thor's. We were both captains. There were only 4 of us. That speaks to our might. And Thor's was mighty indeed. An average warrior never sniffs a seat without the Joms Vikings, yet Thor's was called Troll by his peers, the best of the best. Sigvaldi was so smitten with his sword arm that he offered his daughter. That was Helga, your mother. So the head of Jom is my grandfather? That's right! And my brother, which makes me your great uncle as it happens. Makes you forget all that pain, doesn't it? Which, okay, I need to process that information for Thorfinn. I did not expect this to be surprise royalty trope, but all right. I should have seen it coming. There's been a lot of good utilizations of classic tropes throughout Vinland Saga, and it fits right in. You can't be serious, Aslan observes. He might as well be royalty. Our last battle was at I can't Norwegian words, man. I got no idea. In Norway, we were vanquished, Thorkel continues. Thor's fell into the water in full armor and his body never surfaced. We gave him a funeral without a body. I even shed tears for him. I always wanted to beat him with my own hands. Of course, I'd hardly need to tell you. Thor's wasn't dead. Jomsburg was the last place I saw him. It's 3 months after we said our farewell. But the Thors I met then was a far cry from the troll I knew. And we see that Thorkel came across 2 cloaked figures, and upon seeing their identity, it was Thor's and his wife Helga. Thor's told him of his plan to abandon, and Thorkel, to his character consistently, did not want to let this happen and tried to fight Thor's with an axe while Thor's was unarmed, but Thor's managed to beat and knock him out. Thor's is a beast. It makes Aslan's murder of him all the more rage-inducing. But after he finishes telling that part of the story, Thorkel continues. There was a brief outcry when Helga's disappearance came to light, but I held my silence. I thought, It was the honorable thing to do, and after 15 years I learned that Thor's was well and truly dead. The famed Leif the Lucky himself brought his body for us all to see. They were close friends, I gather. This is so humiliating, Thorfinn thinks to himself. I'm being bandaged by the very man who killed my father. But I did not shed any tears at the news. I'd had 15 years to think about him, Thorkel continues, and I realized that it wasn't a matter of life and death, of the flesh. What's important to a warrior is the soul, and where it lies. And his soul had gone far away. I still don't understand it. I can't reach him. Wherever it is, it's not here. But that must be where he finally became a true warrior. And now Thorkel's like getting deep on me. I didn't expect Thorkel to I love Thorkel. Thorfinn, you knew Thor's after his life in the Jon Vikings. What sort of life did he lead in Iceland? Tell me of him. Which Thorfinn refuses to do, which pisses off Thorkel, and I kind of agree. He just gave you a lot, Thorfinn, and you're not going to give him anything? And Thorkel's mad at this and says, I can see it in your eyes. Or rather, I can't see it. You're missing that odd spark he had in his. What? How dare you, Thorfinn says. You didn't learn a single thing from Thor's. You spent all those years together and wasted them all. And you're embarrassed that somebody else finally realized it. And Thorfinn tries to charge Thorkel, giving him exactly what I think he wanted. At this point, on reread, I really think Thorkel is doing like a masterful emotional manipulation, but it's a genuine one, if that makes sense. Like, he believes what he's saying, and that kind of makes it more effective. And here we see Aslan begin telling Thorfinn a plan on how to beat Thorkel, which I had in my mind, like, fat chance. But we cut to the prince who comes across Thorkel's men that have been sent to go find them, and they take command of that party and ride back to Thorkel. We cut back to the fight, and we see Thorfinn is mostly focusing on dodging, trying to appear as defeated as he can. Once Thorkel thinks Thorfinn is unarmed, he approaches. This is a disappointment. I was expecting you to show a bit more backbone. Thors must be crying in Valhalla. The end always comes swiftly. Now, the boy's done admirably. If it weren't for all the jumping and scuttling around, maybe. That's right, Thorkel. Move in close, Aslan thinks. Thorfinn is helpless right now. Deliver that killing blow. Thorkel raises his axe, and Aslan shifts his blade that he's wet with snow to reflect the sun into Aslan's eyes. Thorfinn springs up, showing far more resilience than Thorkel thought he had, and lands a knee hit to Thorkel's face, sending him to the ground. The men are shocked as Thorkel is actually hit with full force. Thorfinn leaps onto the man and claws at his eyes. In a rage, Thorkel's men descend on Thorfinn. They begin trying to kill the boy. Thorkel standing, "You craven bastards! How dare you shame me like this? How dare you dishonor my duel?" His men stop their attempted murder. Asingir, what does a warrior's pride mean to you? Tell me! Curse me if you wish, but this duel ends here. I'm going to kill the boy. Thorkel places a hand on his second. Kill me if you must, but you need to live. Who else among us can possibly lead the army of 500 beasts? And I love this detail of seeing how loyal Thorkel's men are compared to Aslan, because Aslan's a snake in the grass. Thorkel, criticize him as you might, which all of it's probably due, but he is a straight up honorable warrior, and his men reflect that. I'm sorry, no, they don't reflect that. They respect that. They actually just tried to do something dishonorable, and that's what Thorkel is responding to. I also love how clearly, like, Aslan is coming into a near fathering role for Thorfinn, and he's, like, hating it, but it's undeniably there. But just then the prince arrives. There will be no further combat. Any who die in this battle are wasting their lives. And we see the two leaders of the treachery that betrayed Aslan find each other. One of the brothers still in a catatonic state as the other finds him and begins crying. The conversation begins between Thorkel and the prince. No one has the right to interfere in a duel. Not kings, not gods. Begone, girl, misgendering the prince. It doesn't seem to be much of a duel anymore. If you are the leader of men, Thorkel, perhaps you should demonstrate pride and grace before your followers. To which Thorkel screams, Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! Ah! I know these things, you little fucking brat. I don't need you to tell me what to do. And he takes a big breath before saying, Release Thorfinn. I lost the duel. No, you didn't. We interfered against your orders. Shut your mouth, you clown. Observe the rules. I lost. At least let me keep my damn dignity. And his second says, do as he says. And Thorfinn's released. Ah, this sucks. In my 50 years of life, I've never had such a bad day. Which, I mean, yeah, Thorkel, you just lost an eye, lost a duel, and got humiliated in front of your men. It's a bad day for you, and I'm sorry, my guy. I fear and respect you. It's a very confusing experience. Thorfinn tries to leave with Aslan, but Aslan refuses, saying, if you want to leave, be my guest, but I'm staying. Thorfinn says, do you think this is some kind of joke? Why did I go through all this torture to quit? Squalling boy, and watch. Aslan knows what's coming. This is the good part. And we see the prince begins telling Thorkel that indeed their father sent them out on the battlefield most likely to die, and that their brother is being set up to be king. The prince does not accept this though, and wants to fight for the crown. He wants his inheritance. My father does not love me. At this point, my existence has become a source of lament for my father in the kingdom. Do you know how to grow plump, ripe, and succulent fruit? The first rule is to prune the weaker fruit off the branch as early as possible. You're saying King Swin is hoping that I'll kill you? Thorkel observes. Death in battle is a more proper means of dealing with me than assassination or imprisonment. In essence, the prince says, my father the king does not wish to sully his own hands with the blood of his son. And we see Thorkel actually shows the prince some respect when one of his men tries to interrupt and says, keep your trap shut. I'm talking to the prince. And the prince lays out their plan when Thorkel asks where they plan to go, saying, to the army's headquarters in Gainsborough, to fight my father. And you think you'll win? How very optimistic. Without Ragnar, no less. I will simply do what must be done. And besides, I haven't much of a life to mourn. Thorkel stands, approaches the prince, and says, I've seen countless men who claimed they were ready to give up their lives. Many of them were all talk. And he feigns a swing at the prince's face, which the prince does not flinch. And Thorkel thinks, I don't like that look. I've seen that look before. And we see a visage of Thor's. What is it with your kind? What do you see with those eyes of yours? I have so much to say about this, and I love it. Let's continue on, though. Thorkel stands and says, listen up, boys. Even I harbor one great regret in my life. Why didn't I follow Thor's back then? It still haunts me. A terrible shame. If only I'd gone with him, I might have discovered the secret to being a true warrior. Well, either way, I'm still fighting against Swin. Right, that settles it. You have my assistance in this fight. I'm on your side, Prince. To which his men say, what? I want to see what you do and what you become with my own eye. And if I find it's unworthy of the example you've shown, I'll kill you on the spot. Got that? The prince smiles, saying, very well. As of today, you are my Thane. And we see Aslan stand, begins screaming with laughter. This makes a lot of sense with us knowing his true motivations. Thorkel sees Aslan and says, oh, he's still here. Aslan approaches the prince, kneeling, admitting, it was I who killed Lord Ragnar. Strike me down. Why would you? Thorfinn says, however, Aslan continues, if you would grant this wicked man life, then he shall see that it is spent in loyal service to you. The prince turns their back on Aslan, saying, do Ragnar's share of the lifting. That is your atonement. Aslan kneels down. Majesty, as you command. What's the big idea? Don't copy me, Thorkel says. Copy you, Aslan says. I was in his service first. Either way, we're partners now, Thorkel says. I already killed all your men, though. Hope you don't mind. Bygones and such. I love the little bygones and such in the bottom of this panel. That's so funny. He's like out of the side of his mouth, like, sorry, I murdered all your friends and stuff. We're cool, though, right? And this section of Vinland Saga ends with Aslan saying, I have no choice but to let bygones be bygones. The prince says to their new army, if you will follow, then do so. We march to drag King Sweyn off his throne. Okay, everything in that end segment was genuinely 10 out of 10. I love that this has been such a trope-heavy story, but then it comes in with a massive subversion where we even see our theoretical main character Thorfinn is set up to be somewhat royalty, yet that is not where this is going, where he shall seek the throne, and instead we're still following the prince, who they are going to be seeking the throne. That really changes up where I thought the predictable trajectory of this story was going to go. I'm so fascinated by how much I love characters that I should kind of hate and hate characters that aren't necessarily wrong. Like Vinland Saga is setting up an epic story so well. It's not overcomplicated, but there's nuance right and left. Character motivations are set up and paid off beautifully. Thorkel, being what he is, was exactly what he needed to be to continue down this path, and Thorfinn's confusion and internal conflict feels like it's positioned so well to be such a catalyst for conflict with this new alliance going forward. I'm 100% invested. My god, this... But let me know what you thought of Volume 3 of Vinland Saga in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. I got books, I got merch. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.